Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name is Shamika and this is Check the Rhymes. I am so excited that you're here. Thank you for joining me and tuning in. Today I have a great show for you. I have joining me today Dr. Yusef Salaam of the Central Park Five, aka the Exonerated Five, and National Book Award finalist Ibi Zoboi. And they are introducing their Punching the Air novel. It's a powerful new young adult novel that's about racial injustice and also shines a light on Dr. Salaam's story through the character Amal and his experiences. And so the novel is really about combining those stories with art and poetry. So I'm excited to talk to them about the novel and how it came together. So stay tuned, you don't want to miss this. Welcome to Check the Rhymes. I'm super excited that you're here. How are you guys doing this morning?
Oh,
doing good, thank you.
Awesome. Well, so the book Punching the Air, I love it. Thank you for writing this book. So my first question is, I wondered, because when I first heard Dr. Salaam that the book would be about your story, my question was what made you decide to do it in this format versus, a memoir or something like that? And how did you two kind of collaborate and make the decision, let's take this format and gear it towards young adults?
So yeah, we wanted to have it be inspired by my story, although it's not my personal experience that I went through. But, we found that there were so many similarities growing up in New York as a young person that we both connected to. We had Amadou Diallo, we had Bernard Getz, you had across the country in modern times, Trayvon Martin, Tamir Rice, and countless others. I think that we wanted to write this book in this form because, as I look at young people, they are the hope and the dreams of our ancestors. Dr. Frederick Douglass said it's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. And so I look at this book Punching the Air, this love offering that we've given and created as water for the seed of greatness inside of each of us, and especially inside of young people who happen to be maybe struggling the most because of the duality that is placed in the minds of America as to what they want us to be as opposed to who we are,
Okay. What about you, Ibi? Did you have kind of a vision as to how to with the story, writing the story, weaving the past and the present, and then using art to kind of do it, and poetry?
Yeah, this collaboration actually started 21 years ago when I met Yusef in college, and I wanted to interview him for our college's newspaper. I never got that interview, but I ran into him again 3 years ago, and I was already an author who writes for children and teens. And I don't want the world to forget that Yusef was a child when this happened to him.
Right. He
was selling his self-published book of poetry, and one of the poems, I Stand Accused, really caught my attention. And I told him, we wanted to create 16-year-old Yusef, put him on the page and through this fictional character who uses rhyme and hip hop and poetry and art to express his truth. And that's where Punching the Air was born.
Okay. What do you think that, combined with, it's almost like once we seem to kind of feel like we're making progress, if even a little, it seems like something else happened. So like with the recent shooting of Jacob Blake, what's going through your mind right now about, that situation? Or even the countless others that have happened, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, all of that. This is for both of you. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, go ahead, Iggy.
I was going to say that this could have been relevant 21 years ago, and it was definitely relevant 31 years ago when the Central Park Five jogger case took place. I think, as you said, this is something that is ongoing. It is part of the fabric of American racial politics. And the only way to combat that is to constantly speaking out against it, pointing out the flaws, shaming the devil, and making art to speak truth to power, and empowering young people to continue to do the same.
When I think about the oppression that young people are experiencing, and I think about some of the words of poetry that I wrote while I was in prison, this one particular piece just really comes to the surface, and it's called Heartbeat. And what I wrote in Heartbeat, I say, we are at war, the bulk of which is not physical, the bulk of which is mental. psychological warfare to make me accept you as better, like your ice is cooler or water wetter. Holding court in the street. This time court will be sweet. We will not accept defeat. The signal will be your heartbeat. And the heartbeat that built America is erupting as our ancestors' wildest dreams in the streets right now. It is unapologetically unafraid and fearless in the eyes of oppression, knowing that this is the time that we can't give up. We have to make sure that we do everything in our power at this moment to make incremental leaps and bounds into the future of true freedom, justice, and equality. Because, 57 years ago, it was the March on Washington for freedom and jobs. After 100 years of the Emancipation Proclamation, we just had the anniversary of that march, and we're still asking for the same thing, freedom and jobs. Right? We are in such an oppressive state in America that I often echo the words. I often echo the words of my mentor, my teacher, Malcolm X, who said that we wanted the proverbial American dream, but we're all waking up to the American nightmare.
Absolutely, yes, that's so true. Which reminds me of, right now, you're witnessing, even with, speaking of history, you're seeing like a president in office right now that is kind of almost inciting violence, inciting those racial tensions, and then throwing it back and trying to blame other people. So why is it so important for young adults, or of course, voting age, but why is it so important for them to get out and vote and make their voice heard?
Young people have been pushed to the margins. And when you look at the criminal justice system, a system that I call criminal, I call it the criminal system of injustice. You look at that, and then you examine the 13th Amendment, and then you realize that the overwhelming majority of the landscape of prisoners are people of color. They've relegated us to second-class citizenship. This thing called voting is a thing that people have fought and died for. And what's understood in that fight is that they don't mind us marching. They don't mind us yelling out in the streets. They do mind us being organized. And voting is how we organize ourselves and organize our power. And for those of us who think that they don't want to participate in the process, one of the things I always say is non-participation is participation. This is how America moves forward. America uses voting. America puts people in office through the voting process. And the fact that they have been so concerned about our well-being, that they've placed us in prisons, the younger they get us, the more difficult it is for us to get out of the revolving door of recidivism. The younger they get us, the more difficult it is for us to participate in our own freedom, justice, and equality through the process of voting. We have to realize that in a very, very powerful way as we look at this next session of who we put in office. Do we say we want 4 more years of what we've already seen? Because a person's past performance will predict their future performance. Or do we say, you know what, we need something better? And it's about those incremental changes. It's about, okay, we'll do this and then do this and then do this, because we have to have a plan. We can't just have a plan for tomorrow or for the weekend. We have to have a generational plan.
Absolutely. Ibi, do you have any thoughts about voting?
Yeah, this is to constantly remind young people that people have lost their lives in order to vote. I'm an immigrant. I come from a third world country that is still politically corrupt because voting, the voting public has been shamed, and not shamed, just are scared to vote because they will risk their lives, but they still go out and do it. And there are lines and lines of people just using that power to determine the government who will basically determine their lives. So we can't stress enough the power of voting.
Okay. What do you both hope that these young readers, even the adults reading, take away from Punching the Air?
Yeah, I want young people to know that there is power in their art. It is not just about social injustice or the criminal justice system or mass incarceration. Amal makes it through because he has a passion for art making, and that art is the vehicle for his self-expression and his ability to speak truth to power.
Yeah, I was going to say, the greatest thing about art, especially in my own participation in art and as an artist, that we have to understand that the great I Am created us. He created the sunshine, created the sunsets and the birds and the trees and all of that good stuff that we see and that we've had an opportunity to really tune into because of COVID-19. And through the process of doing art, the process of writing poetry in prison, it allowed my mind to be released from the bondage that my body was in. And as they say, wherever your head goes, your body follows. And so I had the tremendous opportunity to see that in real life. I had the opportunity to be able to participate in saving myself. Amal means hope, and interestingly enough, they placed hope in prison. And he's the one that's going to get out of it. He's the one that's going to be able to liberate himself.
Okay. And for my last question, what advice would you give to readers who are wanting to be a voice of change, but they're not sure really how they can make space for that and where they should, they're just confused as to how to do it?
I think it's important to really sit with that confusion for a little bit and sit with that unknowing, because that is part of the process as well. I don't think we come out the womb being revolutionaries, right? We're not two and being out in the protests. Young people are still grappling with what this all means, right? They're still finding out about injustices like the Central Park 5 jogger case because they weren't even born yet. It's to be patient with the process. I don't think we teach patience. And Yusef's story is the ultimate example of patience, where he wasn't able to speak for years. And now look at him, when I met him, I wasn't an author yet. I worked on my craft before I can speak truth to power. So I would say encourage young people to be okay with not knowing. One day it will all come together.
Okay, I love that. Okay.
Yeah, and that's the great thing about, sometimes where we are, allowing ourselves to marinate, allowing ourselves to do self-care. And part of that self-care is your body, so to speak, telling you to take a pause for now, right? Because when we recoup, when we sleep for a moment, when we get that 5-minute power nap, so to speak, we can show up in the world better, stronger, more powerful. It's about understanding who we are and where we are and why we are, right? We're here now, born in this skin, born in a struggle, fighting on the side of right without even knowing that we were in a war. And now we know. And now we can change things.
Well, I want to thank both of you so much for joining me today on Check the Rhymes. And everybody, make sure you go get the book, Punching the Air, wherever books are sold. And thank you both so much for joining me. I hope you have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you as well.